used, it's not going to be in the best hands.
Who is running the show? How far has this thing gone? How much has this Frankenstein, this covert military-industrial sector, gotten its legs and gotten up off the table and walked away?
Almost as great as the mystery surrounding the origin of UFOs is the wall of denial encountered even by the most powerful citizens in the land. In October of 1969, President Jimmy Carter, who was then governor of Georgia, had a UFO sighting. He filed a report with the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. In the report, he described a sharply outlined, self-luminous object about the size of the moon. It maneuvered silently in front of 10 witnesses. At a recent book tour, we asked President Jimmy Carter about his sighting.
What happened to
the UFO issue?
I don't really know what happened to it. I saw one, but I don't know what, it just disappeared.
Well, this is the first. The president...
During Jimmy Carter's presidential campaign, he promised to make public what the government knew about UFOs. In an effort to fulfill this promise, President Carter's scientific advisor, Frank Press, wrote a letter requesting that NASA lead the investigations into the UFO phenomena. When news of this pending investigation reached Air Force Colonel Charles Senn, he wrote NASA. In closing, he stated, "I sincerely hope you are successful in preventing a reopening of UFO investigations."
Whatever activity is going on, to the extent that it is a clandestine group, a quasi-government group, a quasi-private group, it is without any type, as far as I can tell, of high-level government oversight. And that is a great concern.
In December of 1977, NASA officially declined President Carter's request, proposing that it take no steps to establish a research activity in this area.
Did you ask when you were president? What is that?
Yes, but there's a lot of different answers, and nobody has proof of things.
The American Broadcasting Company and affiliated stations present Headline Edition with Taylor Grant. The 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. Colonel William Blanchard of the Roswell Air Base refuses to give details of what the flying disc looks like.
New Mexico Congressman Stephen Schiff was pressed by his constituents into making inquiries regarding the Roswell incident.
I think a number of people getting their information from news stories, not in all cases, but in many cases, are not getting all of the information.
In a 1997 radio interview, he recalls what happened when he made inquiries with the Department of Defense.
The first response I got was a bit of a terse response from a colonel in the Air Force. The letter just said, "We've referred your request for information to the National Archives," with really no further explanation. And I found that unusual at the very least.
After a second attempt with the Department of Defense, Congressman Schiff was again referred to the National Archives.
And I got a response from them that said, "We have no information about the Roswell incident." And further, they added a note that said, "We've received a great number of requests for information." And I thought to myself, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, if the Defense Department is sending everybody to the National Archives, that they'd be getting a lot of requests. And frankly, I felt this was a runaround. In other words, in my view, the Defense Department sent me to another agency on my request, knowing that agency would not have any information.
Evidently, former director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, was also denied access, as he stated in his own handwriting in July of 1947. "We must insist upon full access to discs recovered." Hoover continued, "The Army grabbed it and wouldn't let the Bureau have it for cursory examination."
We will stand against the forces of...
A more recent inquiry was apparently made by President Bill Clinton.
Let us stand up and talk against it.
he asked Associate Attorney General Webster Hubbell to investigate. Webb Hubbell and Bill Clinton were old friends. In his book, Friends in High Places, Hubbell recalls a special favor that President Clinton made after he first came into office. Webb, he said, if I put you over at Justice, I want you to find out the answers to two questions for me. One, who killed JFK? And two, are there UFOs? He was dead serious. Hubbell had looked into both, but wasn't satisfied with the answers he was getting. When we asked Mr. Hubbell about this incident, he replied,
was wondering if you, by any chance, recall anything further at this point?
No. No, I put everything in the book that I knew. I mean, I'd suggest you contact Mr. Clinton.
We contacted President Bill Clinton and received this letter. It is a response from NASA, stating that no government agency is currently responsible for investigating UFOs because there is no factual evidence that alien life exists on other planets, or that UFOs are related to aliens.
See, this is what you'll be up against. Who are you going to see? The moment you go see somebody and say, oh, we can't tell you, it's top secret, what are you going to do? You have to walk out. So you see how the government operates? How they can, you say, you should go there and answer. Who are you going to go to? Even with the experience I had being on the top of the government all the years, I couldn't tell you who to go see.
Paris, 1999. The most important UFO study in recent decades is made public. This was presented to the President and Prime Minister of France, urging diplomatic action with the U.S. through the European Union. The report was compiled by the Cometa Group, which investigated over 500 UFO cases from around the world.
This report, which came from a high-level group of French military officers primarily, as well as some scientists, is the most strongly worded pro-UFO document ever written in any language that has been made public by a group of this stature.
The Cometa Group consists of generals and admirals of the French military, as well as top-level scientists, such as André Lebeau, director of CNES, the French equivalent of NASA, General Bernard Norlin, former commander French Tactical Air Force, and Jean-Claude Ribe, the former director of the observatory at Lyon, France.
The title of the report is UFOs and Defense, What Must We Prepare For? Now it's 92 pages of text after that title.
The Cometa Group received data collected by numerous scientific agencies. Much of its content was based on reports from military and civilian pilots. This official document was an internal military investigation that was never intended for the general public. The report also contains a selection of photographs. These photos were subjected to scientific analysis in an effort to determine authenticity. Cometa also examined physical evidence, such as plant and soil samples taken from alleged landing sites. One such case occurred on January 8, 1981, in southern France.
There was only a single witness to that event. He was working in his small farm. Late one afternoon, he heard a whistling sound.
He looked up, and just above the trees was this strange craft. It descended and landed 30 feet away in his garden.
La forma c'était come se on posait deux assiettes, l'una sull'altra.
He told his wife about it in the evening, and she thought that he was joking. They went back in the morning to look at the area, and they found traces on the ground.
Sì, che io avevo rondo. Maintenant commence à revenir l'herbe, ma là ils ont coupé beaucoup de fois. Et ici.
The scientists came out in a week or two, and they took further samples of soils. They also took samples of plants, and the analysis of the soil and plants were very interesting. They were carried out quite professionally, and there was evidence of compression of the soil, and there was a clear evidence of damage to the plants, the kind of injury that could happen because of heating, due to microwaves, for instance. So there was good physical evidence in that case, and moreover there were two kinds of physical evidence: injury, damage to the soil, and damage to the plants.
Despite the physical evidence, the small town of Trans-en-Provence labeled the farmer as a flying saucer fanatic.
Je peux pas dire que c'était une soucoupe volante, que c'était... J'ai vu quelque chose,
Oui.
il s'est posé, il est reparti.
A number of cases analyzed by the Cometa Group came from military pilots involved in UFO incidents. One of the most dramatic cases occurred in September of 1976, when a Phantom F-4 jet flown by a pilot from the Iranian Royal Air Force attempted to fire a missile at a UFO. In the same instant, the pilot's fire control console and radio went dead. At this point, a smaller craft emerged from the main UFO and circled around the jet. The pilot then took evasive action and power to his controls returned. He escaped unharmed.
In this report, they say, in effect, UFOs are real. Ergo, the extraterrestrial hypothesis may in some cases be the best or only real answer and cannot be ignored. They are technological. They do things that we probably can't do. And all that being said, this obviously constitutes a major concern for global defense and security.
When the report was completed, it was given to a number of leading French journalists. One of these was Bernard Tournel, the editor of VSD.
VSD is a French weekly magazine like Time Life. We are a journal press publication. It's not specialized in UFO sightings at all.
The Cometa Group allowed VSD to publish the report, provided it was not manipulated in any way.
If the public was aware of the Cometa report, then the Cometa report was not going to disappear in any kind of official or semi-official dark hole, so to speak. Then the Cometa report became a public fact, and it remains a public fact.
To date, the report has not been officially published outside of France. And so far, only one article, published in the Boston Globe, has appeared in the U.S. press.
I applied a very high standard to the story because of its controversial nature. I was basically retelling what the generals and the other people had concluded in their report. I looked at government documents that dealt with the issue of national security and UFOs, which was what the generals were dealing with in France.
Despite her thoroughness, Leslie Kean encountered much resistance in getting the story published.
I went to many papers, many of whom I published with in the past. People laughed, hung up the phone. The subject matter is ridiculed in the media. And so even though I was dealing with facts in this article and high-level journalism, they weren't interested because of the subject matter. This was really frustrating because I thought this was an extremely important story, and I know that it was newsworthy.
Most Americans have never heard of it. The group hasn't published an English translation that anybody can get a hold of. And they seem to be on the trail of saying, hey, you Americans, you're holding back technology that you've learned from flying saucers from your allies. So it's a message to the Pentagon, not to the public. They know the Pentagon knows they're real. So it's an important report for what it says. No other report with names, with people with excellent cases, this is not anonymous reporting now, has come close to taking as strong a stand that some UFOs are extraterrestrial spacecraft.
A group calling itself the Disclosure Project is in Washington this week, calling on Congress to hold public hearings on UFOs.
Is there really life on other planets? Some former military and government personnel say they have proof there is.
A group of people who claim they have seen UFOs is calling on Congress to open hearings.
What do members plan to do with their information? They hope Congress and President Bush take notice.
Before a crowd of believers and skeptics, with cameras rolling, members of a group calling itself the Disclosure Project stood up one by one to tell personal experiences involving what they say are UFOs.
I have with me the voice tapes of the controllers that were involved. I have a copy of the original of the video that we took, which is rather interesting. And it's called the UFO Incident, Japan 1648, I believe the number was. It happened on November the 18th, 1986. When it was all done, the CIA, one of the CIA men told the people they were now sworn to secrecy, that this meeting never happened and this event never happened.
The Disclosure Project was formed by Dr. Stephen Greer in 1993. Since then, he has gathered together over 200 military and civilian witnesses who experienced UFO events during their official duties.
We had ground visual, ground radar, airborne visual, and airborne radar confirmation of some of these sightings.
Witnesses ranged from FAA controllers to military communications specialists.
And I can clearly recall seeing a message that went through my crypto center which said that a UFO had crashed on the island of Spitsbergen, Norway, and the team of scientists were coming to investigate it.
Testimonies varied from photographic and radar data to first-hand recovery.
I've been involved where we have recovered these objects. We know them to be of extraterrestrials. I was one of the people that approached it with a Geiger counter to get surface readings. I was the first person to go ahead and see that there were bodies on it. If Congress calls me in and says, will you testify in detail what you know, I stand here today prepared and ready to do just that.
Many witnesses provided official documentation of their event.
Out of the National Archives, I have the 18-page official Navy and Air Force report. So the truth is here. I will testify under oath before Congress that everything that I have said is true.
Dr. Stephen Greer's primary goal is to provide congressional immunity to his witnesses so that they can testify freely in open congressional hearings.
I've stated that this campaign will persist until our goals are met, that we have open, honest hearings on the subject in the U.S. Congress.
Often in reliable UFO cases, the official explanation is more unbelievable than the event itself.
I had the evidence that a crash did happen here.
And then the red light was sort of casting a glow over the whole thing, so it looked like a round disc.
I saw one, but I don't know what, it just disappeared.
People say, Mike, now you saw a B-2 bomber. My response was, we could land all 40 of our B-2 bombers on the wing of that craft.
What we saw out there was definitely unidentifiable.
There is a serious possibility that we are being visited and have been visited for many years by people from outer space, from other civilizations. That it behoves us, in case some of these people in the future or now should turn hostile, to find out who they are, where they come from, and what they want.
Well, if the accounts are to be believed, yes, there have been ET visitation, there have been crashed craft, there have been material and bodies recovered, and there is some group of people somewhere that may or may not be associated with government at this point, but certainly were at one time, that have this knowledge.
the thing you have to remember is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you've got the knowledge and the budget, nobody looking over your shoulder, it's a great temptation to think that you know best. Heck with the public, they don't know enough to have a sensible opinion. That's unfortunate.
Я как генерал, вот как военный человек, я понимаю, что любое правительство, понимаете, не начинает рассматривать это с точки зрения вот чего-то для войны, для военного, что-то применить, вот то, что там они принесут, это инопланетяне. Вот это категорически неправильно.
Since the subject is clearly of great interest to the public, I think that the scientific community owes it to the public to really pay attention to the subject and make a thorough, extensive and careful investigation, and then share with the public whatever they find.
A story this big, there's no way it could be kept secret from the public. What do you say to someone like that that says that?
Well, somebody's kept it pretty secret for quite a while, haven't they?
If structured craft of unknown origin are penetrating our skies, the people best equipped to know are the military.
And we will provide you with all the information that you need.
Numerous military witnesses are prepared to testify in great detail, but need immunity from their security oaths. Congress is currently being lobbied to provide a platform for such testimony, but so far, to no avail. The discovery that we are being visited by extraterrestrials would be one of the greatest in human history. Such a discovery would profoundly alter the perception of ourselves and our place in the universe.